album was that I just wanted to do those covers, but I had enough songs for an album, so I didn't want covers on a record that could be full of original songs. So I did the EP as a way just to kind of, sort of do musical tributes, and then also there's one, Summertime Is Coming from the EP is on the record, so it's also a way to sort of introduce the fact that a record was on the way, but mostly just because it was fun to do covers, but I didn't want them on the full length.
Tell me a little bit about like what went into the process of picking the covers, because there's a really diverse selection. We're going to be listening to a few later on, but yeah, what went into the process of picking them?
I don't know. I think it's just something fun as a musician to look at what other people do, and I felt that, for instance, Jay Dilla is someone that I really, really admire his work, and there's something about sort of, you can only go so far appreciating it by listening, or you can go far enough appreciating it by listening, but I got so much insight into sort of how amazing what that guy did was by trying to reconstruct one of his compositions, because especially he built his songs, I think, by layering samples, so it's not even original music that he would put into his songs. He would sort of do some original music and some sampling, but he had this like crazy ear for music that he could just make sonic scapes that are unlike anything else I've heard. So trying to decipher like what is there in this song to try and rebuild it was, I don't know, it was just a great exercise as a musician, and also just as a fan of Dilla's, to try to get into his head and be like, oh, I'm pretty sure that these two things are dissonant, but he mixes them in exactly the right way so that that dissonance just becomes something really beautiful.
Yeah, you learn more about the process and less about just the listening experience, I guess.
It's just, it felt like it brought me closer to Dilla. And yeah, I mean, it really is an odd thing. I think because he was using like multiple samples, the pitch isn't exactly right. So I found like the top melody in that song, like how do you make this sort of moving bed of sound that's in the background of his thing, which is probably literally just two different samples from old songs. And then he put a top melody on top of that, which is this really childlike, beautiful thing. But if you try and just approximate that, then the top melody sounds like shit. It sounds out of key with what's going on underneath. So then I had to like pitch shift it a couple cents, is when you like don't even go from one note to another, you just like creep up into like out of tune a little bit, and then that top melody would sit on top of the bed that I created. And so I realized, in his case, it's probably because the samples...
Longer, actually, why don't we listen to that song? It's Midsizer, it's the second
I start talking about Dilla, I'll go forever.
Just so people have a sense of it. Song is that you would get Pete Rock to introduce you? Or did you even try for that? Or?
No, I mean, what that sounds like to me is like a radio interview that he just sampled, right?
No, I think they got him to... So the original album that this Jay Dilla song appears on, it's called Midsizer, is called, is it Jay Got Paid or Jay...
Jay Stay Paid.
Jay Stay Paid. And they got Pete Rock to like talk over the entire album like it was a radio interview.
Get out.
Yeah?
I did not know
that. Tell me about the first time you heard Jay Dilla.
I heard Jay Dilla, a dude that I know that worked at Kim's. I was at a bar one night and we were just talking about music, and he said the best album of the year is Donuts by Jay Dilla. And that was the first I'd heard, but he was, Kim's is in New York, they know what they're talking about at Kim's with music. So I was like, oh, okay, this guy's not kidding around. It was the dude from The Box, a band called Jason from The Box, was the person who told me about Dylan. So anyway, the way he said, that's the best record I've heard all year, and for someone who works in a record store, I was like, well, that's a pretty strong vote of confidence. So I checked it out, and then I realized that I was familiar with his stuff because Adult Swim would use his music in between TV shows, and some of the music on Adult Swim is actually like awesome. So I was like, oh, that's that dude from that amazing song that Adult Swim plays. I don't know, that was like 2005. It was the year Donuts came out that I discovered him. And I think Donuts came out shortly after he died, actually.
How did you how did you first take in the album? Was it like a really formal thing? Did you go sit down and listen to it?
Kind of, yeah, because it was the sort of, it gave me the sense that it was the kind of record you should study before, because